Our next guest has for a long time been one of the top welterweights in the world, a former Strikeforce champion. He's coming off an impressive win over Brian Foster last weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Shields is in the building on Submission Radio. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing really good. Good to have you on the program. Now, it's been about a week removed from your impressive win over Brian. How do you feel about your performance? What kind of stands out to you about it?
I mean, overall, I'm happy. It was good. I made a few mistakes. There's never, there's rare things go perfect. I let him hit me once or twice at the beginning, but that kind of woke me up. So then I went, once I took him down, I was able to pass guard pretty easy, get him out, take back, and get the submission. So when you get a first round submission, you can't be too bummed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised you're even picking yourself apart. It's been a couple of fights now since you've joined World Series of Fighting. Tell us, how do you enjoy being with the company?
So far, I love it. They treated me good. They seem to be growing really fast, and the company's moving in the right direction. It's been a great experience so far. I'm just ready to go out there and take their belt.
Yeah, absolutely. Touching on that, you were very successful in the UFC. Now in World Series of Fighting, you're currently undefeated. And, we're very confident that you may beat Rousimar Palhares for the title. Do you think there's anybody in World Series of Fighting in the welterweight division that could potentially beat you?
I mean, right now I'm only worried about Paul Harris. He's the only guy in my mind, so he's the most dangerous guy. And then after that, then once it's to him, I'll start looking at who the next contender would be. But I mean, I get a serious threat in front of me right now.
And everybody's excited about that fight. Before we break down the matchup, we just want to get your thoughts on Rousimar Palhares. What do you think of Palhares as a fighter?
As a fighter, I mean, he's phenomenal. He's really strong, explosive. Some of the best submissions in the game. I would say the best leg locks in all of fighting. So, dangerous guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guess the biggest question is, obviously, you're an amazing grappler, American Jiu Jitsu represent. I want to get your opinion on this, Jake. In a matchup between you and Palhares, the biggest question that comes to mind is, do you worry at all about his leg locks? And do you think it's likely that he could potentially get you in a leg lock in a matchup against him?
I mean, yeah, anything's possible. To say, not going to worry about it impossible would be stupid of me, but I'm not particularly worried. I have great leg locks myself. I would love to go out there and try to leg lock him back. Usually he goes there with guys who don't know what they're doing, so he's playing someone that can attack him back. And he's a guy, he hurts people, and he goes after me, and so I have the same mindset. If I get something, I'm gonna try to break it against him.
I'm just wondering, in terms of the fight, let's say hypothetically something was to happen, he was to catch you on a leg lock, would you be worried at all that he might hold it a bit too long?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's gonna try to break it, and that's something I'm aware of. So it's he's a dirty fighter. So when you fight someone like this, you got to get the mindset back that he's going out to try to hurt me. So I'm gonna try to hurt him.
And John Fitch is a guy that has a heavy grappling game and good wrestling like yourself. He didn't fare very well against Palhares. What did you think of that fight? And what do you think about a possible fight against Fitch in the future when your tenure in World Series of Fighting? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, with that fight, first off, Fitch looked good. And Palhares capitalized on one mistake and took it and popped his knee really bad. As far as fighting Fitch, Fitch is a guy I've had grappler matches with. I've trained a bunch of times. He's been a guy I've been looking at fighting for probably close to 10 years. So, of course, I'd love to fight Fitch. I think at this point, though, right now, I got to get through Paul Harris, and then hopefully Fitch wins a couple fights and gets back on track.
Yeah, if you do win, obviously, against Rousimar Palhares, that's another title to add to your, already large collection. How big would that be? What would that mean to you?
I mean, it's awesome. I already have maybe 5 world titles, so it'd be nice to add another belt to that collection. It's always, at this point, I look at the fight more than the title, but of course, the title's an extra bonus.
Now, let's talk about your recent success. You've obviously gone 2 for 2. You've had some great first-round submission finishes. What do you attribute to, these early finishes that you're having lately in World Series of Fighting? Is there anything different that you're doing in training? Is there any changes that you've made in your life? What do you attribute it to?
A little bit, just trying to be more aggressive, when I'm training, trying to go out there and my mindset thinking, don't let this guy survive. Try to get the submission in the first round in all my training sessions. So then that transfers over when I fight. So I'm going out there with the mindset of not allowing the fight to go through the second round. Not trying to pace myself, not trying to save anything, just trying to go out there and put the guys away right away.
Hey, and fans love it. At this point in your career, Jake, where you've competed for the biggest companies in the world, you've held many titles, you fought on the UFC's one of UFC's biggest shows of all time. You've mixed it up with some of the biggest names across multiple divisions. What are your goals now, and why do you keep fighting?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really tough question. I mean, ultimately, I still just love the sport. I enjoy training. I enjoy being around it. I still enjoy competing. So my goal is I really just take it one fight at a time. Right now I started, I was feeling a little burnt out towards the end of my career with the UFC, just dealing with them and things that kind of got burnt out. And I was actually considering retiring towards the end there. I was in the right mind, and I decided to, to give it another fight or two, and now I'm enjoying it again when the World Series is fighting. So right now the only thing I'm worried about is trying to get through Palhares, and I'll really evaluate from there. I mean, I still feel healthy. I feel younger than I've ever felt, healthier than I've ever felt. So it's hard to say when I want to retire.
Yeah, don't leave yet, Jake. We love watching you fight. Now, another name out there in the welterweight division outside the UFC is Ben Askren. He's one of the elite guys out there in the world, and he's shown interest in fighting John Fitch and Palhares. We're not sure what his contract situation is like with ONE FC, but it seems like he'd be someone that you'd be interested in challenging and fighting because he's another great guy in the welterweight division outside the UFC who has a great ground game. Would you be interested in taking on Ben at all if the opportunity presented itself in the future?
Yeah. Definitely, without a doubt. I'm a guy that's always looking for the big fights. I'm in it to test myself, and it's I want to fight the best. And Ben Askren's one of the best guys out there, so I'd love to fight him. I've actually had an opportunity to train with him he came out and trained with me for about a few years ago. So he's someone whose game I know, and I would love a chance to fight him.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, the big fights, and he's one of the biggest who obviously isn't in the UFC. I'm just wondering, obviously both of you guys are grapplers, different styles. How would you see that fight going?
I think it'd be a very high-paced, exciting fight, actually, because the way our styles mixed up, neither one of us would have a hard time controlling the other. So there'd be lots of scrambling and action. I think it would be a good fight. I see myself submitting him.
Now, Jake, one of your close friends and team members, Nick Diaz, is going to be potentially having the toughest fight of his career against Anderson Silva very, very soon. How involved are you in Nick's training going into this one? And, what do you see as some of Nick's strengths against Anderson in this matchup?
Nick's a phenomenal fighter. He's obviously his stand-up's really good, where Anderson's good. I feel like Nick holds an advantage on the jiu-jitsu. Who knows if we'll get there? And then as far as how involved I've been, haven't been involved with Mike, so training myself in my own fight, but I've definitely trained with him some. I've been out there sparring with him, and I think he looks great. I think he's going to go out there and shock a lot of people and pull out an upset.
Wow. I just want to also get your thoughts, in terms of this matchup. I think the thing that Nick's fans are worried about is Anderson taking advantage of Nick's boxing stance and kicking his lead leg, much like Dos Anjos did against Nate. Is that something that Nick's been preparing for? Is there any chance we may see Nick throwing kicks?
Yeah, no, he has. Nick does prefer boxing. There's no doubt about that. But he's brought in some really good kickboxers, guys like Joe Schilling and a few others to help train for this fight.
Absolutely. Now, one of the big questions, I guess, and we have to ask this, Jake, because fans are always hounding us about this whenever we mentioned you coming on the show, is, the UFC, they're making it clear that they're bringing back lots of fighters to the company. If the opportunity in the future presented itself, would you be interested going back to the UFC, especially after Dana's comments saying that you're on the downswing of your career and you're never going to be the guy in the company?
Like I said before, right now I'm happy with the World Series of fighting and take one fight at a time. But I'm certainly, I wouldn't say I wouldn't do that. I'm beating the current UFC champ, and I think I'm on an upswing, not a downswing swing. So it would be kind of nice to go out there and take the title just to prove Dana wrong. Nothing personal against Dana, but it's always nice proving people wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, speaking of the fans, Jake, we had a few fan questions sent in, so we're just going to ask you some of those. The Real McCoy wants to know, one of your most high-profile fights was against GSP. If you could have a rematch with George, what do you think you would have done differently? And do you still think about the fight sometimes?
Yeah, I think that it was a really tough fight. I think if I'd do it differently, I would have went in there, a little overwhelmed with how crazy the crowd was, like 60,000 Canadians screaming. So I was a little overwhelmed the first round or two. If I could do it over, I've been a little more aggressive. I ended up, by the time the fight ended, I wasn't tired at all, and I wish I'd put a little more. So yeah, I would just come at him a little harder and, take more shots, be more aggressive on my feet. And I think if I'd been really aggressive in his face, I think I could have wore him down and broke him a little bit.
Now, last fan question is from Tap Snapper Nap. He'd like to know, what are your thoughts about Robbie Lawler as the UFC champion? Do you think he'll be a long-term champion like GSP was in the division?
I like Robbie Lawler personally. I think he's a good fighter. I don't think he'll be a long-term champ like GSP. GSP came in so young, right at had one of the best streaks of all time. So I'd be really surprised if Robbie Lawler can hold it that long. I think the division's so competitive, and these guys are going to take turns beating each other. But you never do know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Now, Jake, just to round things off, we're going to do something fun with you. It's called the Submission Radio Tap Out Round. We basically just throw a bunch of fun questions at you, and you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, give us the one meat dish that you miss the most.
Actually, I've never eaten meat. I've been vegetarian my whole life, so it's something I've never had to miss. It's been really easy.
There you
I've
go.
been fortunate there.
Wow. Now, Jake, what's your go-to grappling move in training?
Probably the guillotine choke. I get guys that over and over. I love attacking the guillotine.
Yeah.
A
Now,
lot of different variations of it.
now, Jake, give us the lowdown. What was it like being on Bully Beatdown, and did you have any idea who you'd have to fight beforehand?
No, they kept the guys separated from us, so we couldn't really see him. And it was a fun experience. Usually when we train for a fight, it's all serious, but we went out there and we'd be out partying the night before, drinking, not taking it serious, and then go in and smack these guys around a little bit.
Now, you have a 13-year-old daughter, Jake. What's the worst chick flick that you've had to go and watch in the cinema thus far?
Nothing too bad. I went and saw. She drove me to some movie with singing. I can't remember what it was called, but it actually ended up being not that terrible. Some girls and some singing team and.
Pitch Perfect. Not that I watched that movie. Pitch Perfect. Yeah, I've never seen it, Jake. I've never seen it.
But it actually wasn't that terrible. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to see this. But then it turned out being like, okay, that wasn't that bad.
I have no idea what movie you guys are talking about. Now we read that growing up you enjoyed wild caving. Are we to understand that you are the Bear Grylls of MMA?
No, the what of MMA?
The Bear Grylls.
The Bear. What is that?
Bear Grylls, Man vs. Wild. That guy, he goes out.
Yeah, I've not seen the show. I've heard of that show, but yeah, no, I definitely grew up doing a lot of wild stuff. I grew up way out in the mountains of California, in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, lots of mountain climbing, rock climbing. There was a bunch of wild caves up there. So me and my brother and some of my friends would wander in there and spend, sometimes an entire day getting lost, exploring these caves. It was one of the things I look back at and be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I could have so easily got lost or died in there, but luckily we made it. It makes fighting look tame.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, I want to get your statement on this because I read about it and I was dumbfounded. Now, when you won the Pan American Championships, which required wearing a gi as a purple belt, you said that you trained about 4 hours in the gi in your life at that point. Is that true? And how many hours have you trained in the gi now?
Yeah, that is true, and it's just I had a purple belt under Cesar Gracie, and everyone I was getting a lot of crap from Brazilians saying I wasn't a real purple belt, because I never trained, and I just I felt like there wasn't a big difference between the gi and the no gi, so I put that on, went to Pan Ams and completely dominated everyone. Submitted everyone except in the finals. I went to the Brazilian national champ and beat him. I think like 20 something to nothing, and it just proved a point that there wasn't a big difference between gi and no gi. And after then, people, I got a little bit of crap about the no-gi training in the belt system, but people kind of mostly stopped after that.
Yeah.
And now I've probably trained a total of 30, 40 hours in the gi in my life.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I like the gi. There's nothing against it. I'm not like I don't have the gi versus no-gi mentality. I think too many people with the gis are the one that have that attitude. They look at us like we're some kind of inferior jiu-jitsu, which I think is childish. I have lots of respect for the gi, and I would like to actually spend a lot of time and properly learn the gi, but I'm always so busy with MMA that I haven't really had the time to do that.
It's great to
So
hear.
I'm by no means against the gi. I just want to clarify that. Sometimes people think when you train no gi, it means you're anti-gi, which I'm not. I just don't think you have to train in the gi.
So there you go, guys. Jake Shields, open-minded, not against the gi. Now, I think this is the last question. It's early in 2015, Jake. You had a big win. Tell us, what are Jake Shields' goals for 2015?
Oh man, I just win all my fights. Obviously, the Paul Harris fight's a big one. Win the World Series of Fighting title, and then from there, see what's next. I'd also like to do some more grappling tournaments. I hope we met him Mars will pan out again, or maybe Abu Dhabi or some more big submission tournaments.
Well, there you guys go. Now, Jake, make sure you don't do any crazy wild caving or anything like that. We don't want to see you injured. Guys, you make sure you follow Jake on Twitter, Jake Shields, AJJ, I believe, and check out the information. World Series of Fighting's next show, Morris versus Hill, World Series of Fighting 18 on the 12th of February at www.wsof.com. Jake, it's been a pleasure. We'll get you back on the show when the next big fight happens.
Great. Thanks a lot.